been going back and forth with like, let's really break down what the ego is. You know what I'm saying? Because I've read books that say the ego needs to die. The ego is the part of you that's separate from God, the part of you that does not believe in your innate qualities as a human being, the part of you that is subscribed to the illusion, right? So that's like the base premises of what the ego would be described as. And then I once heard that ego is edging God out, right? EGO. And so then I thought, though, okay, so say that there was no ego present, because if that's what the ego is, then the ego is a polarity to the divine, to divinity, right? So we could call divinity light, the ego dark. But in order to understand the light, we need the dark. So that made me think like, okay, well, maybe the ego is like something that we can describe a little differently. Like maybe we can look at it like it has a purpose behind the personality. So if we put an ego like as an expression of the personality that's separate from God, which means that it's not aligned within spirit, which means that it's not aligned with the perception of love, because that's really all it is, right? It's we're our thought process, the more aligned, when we say we're aligned, we mean that our thoughts are of love. And that's the will of God. The will is the thought, and we of love, that's the will of God. The will of love, the thought of love. And so if we can position the ego behind a loving personality so that it has an expression of divinity, then the ego wouldn't need to necessarily die. It just needs to get its ass whooped into shape. It just needs to be aligned with the divinity of the personality, the expression of that. And so, but I mean, it still sounds confusing to me, because it's just like, you know, I'm just trying to figure out a way to integrate it, because I just feel like when we say the death of one side of us, that I'm not sure that you can get rid of something that helps define the latter. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. It's like I need this part of me. I need the hell to know the heaven. And so it's not that I'm trying to get rid of hell, but that I know that I am hell too. You know, that it is a part of me that is integrated within me. And the more that I can accept that polarity that helps define the opposite, then it's going to lead me into being able to understand the oneness of everything. Because it's like if we were to look at the yin and the yang, right? The black and the white, the one side, the left side, the right side of the brain. Because essentially that's the metaphors that we use for the polarity, right? So we have this encompassed within the circle. So let's pretend that the circle is the oneness, is God, right? So within the love of God, within God, then we have the polarity, which helps, well, it doesn't help. It is the experience of what we are in right now, whatever we want to call this. And it's funny because, you know, as human beings, like there's certain things, when we know things, we don't observe them the same way, right? So like clouds and sky and nature and colors, like nobody is trying to convince somebody else that green isn't green. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny that we're so involved. Like I know I am, because I've been this way for a long time. I always wanted to understand what the fuck was going on. I mean, from day one, I used to be like, what the fuck is this? Like, I really thought that. And so it had pushed me on this journey my whole life to try to unravel a mystery that has no real answers. You know, because that's the thing here, is like, we can't really argue. And when we're expressing opinions, we're actually only expressing like the levels of evolution that we've experienced. You know what I'm saying? And it's still not a definitive answer, because it can't be, because it's ever evolving. So once you get to one level, guess what? 50 more levels have been created, man. You're still behind. You're still not understanding. And the fact that we still talk about it, because we still are trying to understand our true self, because we have a lost identity, because we lost reverence, respect for what we're actually in right now. You know what I'm saying? We wouldn't be on the search. We wouldn't be trying to define shit if we respected shit. That's how I feel. Because it's like what we've done to manipulate and try to control nature has actually is our own manipulation within ourselves, and we've lost the identity. Just as if grass has lost its identity when we put concrete over it, right? It's the same shit. It's like what we're creating is so far off of what's actually natural within and natural without that we've become confused. And it's like, but it's not a bad thing. Like, I don't like to look at things like they're good or bad. They're neither. You know what I'm saying? It's just where we're at right now. And I think everything should be playful anyway. So it's just like, oh, we're just bringing this up so that the conversation can expand in a sense, you know? And it's like, because we use language, you know, like no other animal has language like we do. They don't speak words, you know? And so because we have words to define everything, we even have words. This was funny to me, is that like we made up words to describe feelings, right? Negative emotion, right? But then we also have words to describe exalted emotions. And so it's like in every instant we're defining how we feel on the inside, and the more connected that we become to how we feel, the more definitive the words become, the more easily identified the words become. But then it almost feels like you're stuck in some type of word stew. You know, because the emotions is always up and down, in and out, they're everywhere, you know, at all times. Like literally, I don't know if anybody else experiences this, but like I'll fuck around and be really feeling like I'm in love with somebody, and then the next day be like, what the fuck was I thinking? Like, this is just, you're out of control, you're out of your mind. And then the next day I'd be like, no, but you're in love though. No, you don't understand, you love him. You know, and it's like to have that type of oscillation happen, it's almost like, if we want to speak around relationships, we do want to get to a place of unconditional love, because it's like if my emotions can oscillate to a point of me feeling like I'm in love and the next moment asking myself, what the fuck were you thinking? These are two very separate, you know what I'm saying, very separate emotions to feel surrounding the relationship with somebody, right? And it's not necessarily them, you know, it's not like, oh, they did this or that, that's what's changing my feelings. No, it's just literally you're riding a fucking wave and you're like, oh, I do. And so what I was thinking is like, okay, because there is such a variable, right, that in order to have stability with each other, we have to start to look into what we would think is unconditional love for each other. So it's unwavering in a sense. It's even if I feel that I'm not in love with you, I'm not actually supposed to be, I'm not in love with you. I need to be in love with what we've created together, the recognition that we are of the same building material, that we are of the same spirit, the same soul. We express ourselves differently within the soul, right? Within the personality. It's a different expression, it's a different destiny, it's a different walk. But that shouldn't have nothing to do with the way that I love you, right? And so if I'm gonna say I love you, that it needs to be unconditional, because otherwise it's not love. You know what I'm saying? It's one day I'm in lust with you, the next day not so much, right? Because that's really what happens. It's like, okay, and women, we so touchy-feely about everything and so emotion oriented. And not saying men don't have that capacity, they do, but it just wasn't naturally taught like it was to women, right? Like we were taught a whole different script, and that's why the gender, you see the gender's so opposite on such ends of the pole, which they're supposed to be. But when we come into balance, more so, we can activate either side. And I think that it is kind of like the direction that we're going right now, because you see, like I was noticing the other day, like a lot of TV shows, a lot of movies, a lot of people, especially here in LA, you know, this is like a kind of a forefront as far as culture goes, because it is surrounded with entertainment. So you see a lot of the younger generations, the kids, becoming less identified with gender, more genderless, you know, and then you see the transitions of one gender to the other, or that they don't want to even identify with a gender at all, you know what I mean? And or even an energy with that gender, because they have a better ability to switch back and forth, unlike us who were born in a more concrete gender. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you're a girl, we're gonna put pink on you, and you're gonna watch princess movies, and your prince is gonna show up. He might be a frog, but when you kiss him, you know? So it's like noticing that, and then trying to make sense of it, not so much judge it, but just look at it like, okay, how is this benefiting culture and evolution moving forward? You know what I'm saying? And with like less gender identification, I feel that we are able to explore a greater capacity of unconditional love, because there's not so much judgment. Because even saying you're a man and you're a woman is still a judgment, even if it is the truth, as far as the three-dimensional physical reality goes. But once we go deeper, we don't have that same judgment anymore. You know what I'm saying? We're looking at what's beneath the physical dimension. And I think that our primal focus moving forward is going to be really dedicated to what's underneath. And that goes back to identity. And I think that saying that we're all the same is a very beautiful thought. But I don't think that it should be like, I don't think that it should knock off individuality. Like, it shouldn't be celebrated, because the individual, the more diverse that we can make a culture, the more able it is going to be to survive. That's just, that's biology 101. You know what I'm saying? The more diverse a culture, the more solidified and what am I trying to say? the more that it has a better chance of surviving and evolving into something greater, you know, into surviving longer periods of time. And so I think that individuality should still be separated, but I don't think it should be within a judgment realm. You know what I mean? It's like, whatever you subscribe to, whoever you are, whatever you like, whatever you don't like, hey, as long as we're not taking each other so personally, because beneath all of it, you know what I'm saying, it's all the same game here. You know, we're all trying to reach this point of understanding information and being able to embody it and walk with it, because that's the hardest part. You know what I'm saying? Because when somebody says to you, it is what it is, or they say like, what's for you is for you, and can't nobody take that from you, that shit sounds fucking amazing. You know what I'm saying? It sounds great. Thank God what's for me is for me. You know what I'm saying? Thank God it is what it is. But, man, walk around with that thought. Really, really think about it, and how good, if you had to judge yourself on a scale from 1 to 10, you know what I'm saying? How well are you doing with that? It's not fucking easy. And I hate that people act like it's just, you know, it's all good, whatever, hey. Because basically what you're doing is whatever wants you have in life, when you say it is what it is, or you say what's for you is for you, sometimes your wants don't align with that. So how are you acting within that? You know what I'm saying? And that's the embodiment of it. Am I able to surrender to this process? Because it's a spiritual walk, and spiritually we're surrendering to destiny. And the more that we can get in the flow of surrender, the more the synchronicities of your destiny are gonna unfold. That's how this shit works. But it's, like I said, it's not something that's easy to do. It's not, because it's fucking scary. It just is. It's like, who said this was easy? And why do people quote this shit with the biggest smile on their face, knowing that this shit is hard? Like, keep it 100. This shit is not easy. I be wanting shit. Like, I wrote some shit today that said, like, literally, I know something is gonna end before it even ends. And so that's fucked up to me. You know what I mean? like, damn, like, you literally have that type of foresight because of feeling. You just know sometimes, and you're like, damn, like, I want this because it's comfortable to me. I want this because it makes me feel good. But the moment that things start to shift, we start to feel it, and we just know that now I'm gonna have to let this go. And I enjoyed it so much, and I don't want to stop enjoying it, but I know I have to. Because I have to switch, again, a growth spurt happens. I have to switch what I want into unconditional love now, right? Because I know that, okay, this obviously isn't going to work, or whatever it is, but I can switch it, and I can transform it, and I can transmute that energy into unconditional love, so that everybody and everything that's included in the situation is going to benefit. You know, because essentially that's what love does. It benefits you, it benefits everybody around you, and the more comfortable you can get with the idea of loss, the easier this shit's gonna be. Because life is just a series of loss and gain. Loss, you lose, you gain. You lose, you gain, you lose, you gain. It's just like, fuck. But it does seem though that when we're in loss and we're feeling those feelings of loss, the loss is hard because we feel like we're missing something, but we're really not. Nothing actually. Everything gets recycled. And when we gain, we always get something better than we had before. We always do. But for some reason in the loss, we just can't see that. But then that's, again, part of the embodiment. I know that if it's not for me, I let it go. Something else replaces it that's going to further my evolution, and so that I can become essentially enlightened as far as my life will take me. Because enlightenment isn't something to actually be obtained. You know what I'm saying? It's something to walk into and walk through with surrender. Essentially, that's what enlightenment is, right? And that's part of going through the pain. And to me, to be fully enlightened would to just really be able to walk within everything, feel everything, and know that it's all part of the plan, and that I don't have no opinion about it. I done left that part. I'm living so much in my heart that there's nothing that's ever gonna hit me personally anymore, because I'm not personal anymore. You know what I'm saying? Where's my accent from? I know it's kind of, everybody always asks me that. Like, where are you from? I was born just south of Seattle. But it's a combination of a few different things, because my mom has like a southern accent. Like, she's straight up like, hey y'all. But then from the time I was 15, I was working in an all black barbershop. And so it's kind of country. It's kind of Ebonics. It's a little bit of everything, I think. But it's interesting because I used to get made fun of from the way I talked, and so I tried to not talk like this, and it was so hard to do. Like, I was like, man, this is like not easy to try to change your accent. Like to try to form fit some, like, I had some serious identity issues at one point too, please believe, you know. And it's funny because you don't like, people assume that you've always been very authentic, and like, yeah, there's always going to be a part of us that's authentic. But when we are challenged for our authenticity, sometimes we feel that conforming might feel a little bit more secure, you know, rather than going against the grain. You know, it's definitely an interesting journey. What does it say? Heard this sentiment earlier today. Sorry, I'm driving. Not becoming too possessive of the intake. Yeah, for real. Let me see. Sorry. Hey now. Okay, what did I do? I don't even know how to get back. Well, okay. I done messed up the screen. Yeah, I think that, you know, like, as much as we talk about, like, as much as I talk about stuff, I don't talk that often. Like, I get on here and I kind of, like, let my thoughts go. But I found myself in real life, like, listening a lot more and just trying to observe the environment around me. Because, essentially, like, you know, I just want to get a grip on, not even a grip, but just just a better observation about how people move and people work. Because that to me, I think when we start to observe each other with empathy, that we can assess the situation, each experience that we're in with more gratitude and with more presence and more awareness of what we might be able to give the environment. Because like, assume that everybody walks into an environment knowing that their light can actually brighten up the environment. So if we have a bunch of people on that brainwave of, hey, you know what, like, my unique gift and my unique light and the way that I express love can actually add to the situation. If I can get out of my own head, because that's what we do, right? We get in our own head, and then it's all about us. We trying to feel who's watching us, who looking at us, how we feeling, is anybody judging us, and we get all this crazy type of thought process in. But really, like, if we walking into a situation looking like, okay, I know I can add to this, you know, and let me assess maybe what people need. And it don't even have to be a gift that, like, words don't even have to be the gift. Physical touch don't even have to be the gift. It don't even have to be a physical gift. It could literally be the thought of love. You could literally walk into a room and just, like, feel that you belong in that room, and you're gonna uplift the room. That's crazy, yeah, but it's true. And the way that we perceive life is like that. It's like, if I walk into a room thinking I got an enemy, I'm gonna create one. But if I walk into a room knowing that it's family, everybody gonna treat me different. And the way that we do that really is like not having no fear, because essentially we are animals and we can sense fear. And it's like certain people, when they sense fear, they get into fear. And so now you got enemy because you got fear on fear. Now we got illusion. And so that's what creates the separation. That's what creates the enemy. But essentially, when we're brothers and sisters, when we're looking at it like family, we're wishing on our sovereignty on our enemy. You know what I'm saying? That's really where we need to be at with it. You ain't got no enemies out here, man. The enemy right now, if we were going to identify an enemy, is the collective thought process. The collective conscious would be the enemy, because there's so many people that are still in a state of lack. They're in a state of misunderstanding what love is. They're in a state of fear. They're in a state of scarcity. Like, that's the enemy. If anything is the enemy, if you want to identify Satan or the devil, that's what that shit is. It's just incorrect perception. And so we just want to, like, if we're gonna stand and be souls who communicate love, then we should know that we're grounding that love wherever we go. So I'm standing in it when I come into a room. And I'm standing in it. I'm standing behind it. I'm standing in front of it. Like, I'm representing that shit. Because it is me. And I can't have not one bone in my fucking body waver to that shit. It really is who I am. And I know that outside of my individual expression, that's who I am. And so knowing that, that's really what it's a dangerous thing in a beautiful way. It's a beautiful danger. Dangerous Beauty. If you've seen that movie, that's a cold movie for a chick to watch. If you're a woman, you want to get some game, Dangerous Beauty. Okay, so I'm out of here because I don't have anything else to say. Hope you guys have a really wonderful day. What is it, Wednesday? Hump day? Hump day? Somebody get some hump on. All right. Okay, bye.